and welcome to our legacy event. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight during Family Week. In attendance are parents, students, and family members. And for those of you joining as part of the class of 2025, we welcome you to the Holy Cross community. My name is Shane Cooper. I'm a 95 alum, current Holy Cross parent, and part of the Holy Cross Alumni Association's Legacy Committee. Tonight, you'll hear from the Legacy Committee co-chairs and our featured alumni speaker, Jackie Ford. We will have time for a question and answer session after her talk. And thank you. There are several questions submitted in advance through our registration link. And if time allows, we'll also answer questions through the Q&A box on Zoom. So please feel free to utilize that function. And I'd also like to let you know that this session is being recorded. Once again, thank you for joining us. And now I'd like to pass things off to Beth Anthony, co-chair of the Legacy Committee.
Thanks, Shane. Good evening and welcome to the Holy Cross Alumni Association's annual Legacy event. I'm Beth Graby Anthony, class of 1988, and co-chair of the HCAA Legacy Committee. While we're far from the hill tonight, our Holy Cross bonds keep us close to each other, no matter where we are. My son, Will, is a junior at the college. My son, John, is an incoming member of the class of 2025. Like all of you, I'm so proud and honored that our family is carrying on our Holy Cross tradition and mission. The Holy Cross Alumni Association seeks to engage Holy Cross alumni for life. Please continue to take advantage of our online engagement opportunities and get involved with your Holy Cross regional clubs. Any one of us here tonight is happy to help you get plugged in. It's now my pleasure to turn things over to my Legacy Committee co-chair, Colleen Ammon.
Thanks, Beth. As Beth said, my name is Colleen Totten Ammon. I'm class of 1992. My daughter Emily is a current senior at Holy Cross. I've been an active participant with the Holy Cross Alumni Association since 1998. I'm a past president of the HCAA board and have served on and co-chaired many committees, including the Legacy Committee. Before I introduce our keynote speaker, I'd like to thank Alex Greeley, the Alumni Relations Office, and all the Holy Cross staff who helped us pull tonight's event together. Our keynote speaker is a member of the class of 1991 and a parent of a current sophomore named Carter. She's an active alum, serving as the gift chair for her 30th reunion this year, and she is the CFO of America's Test Kitchen. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Jackie Macaulay Ford to share her Holy Cross journey and beyond with us tonight.
Thank you, Colleen, and thank you, Beth. I'm humbled to have been asked to speak to all of you tonight. So welcome to everyone, students, parents, new parents, and the HC staff, and thank you for organizing this. I'm going to talk to you about my kind of Holy Cross journey, I will call it, starting with how I came to know Holy Cross, what my academic experience was at Holy Cross, my community experience at Holy Cross, and then kind of post-graduation. Hopefully it will be informative, maybe a little bit entertaining. I don't know, some people in the audience I know, and maybe they'll learn something that they don't already know about me. So how did I come to know Holy Cross? I think, I applied to college in 1987. And it's obviously a very different process now than it was back then. For those of you who were doing it back then, nothing was online. You had to go places to see places. My father was in sales, my mother was a nurse, and we would often go on business trips with my father to New England. And the first time I ever saw Holy Cross was from the backseat of a station wagon on 290. And it was the most amazing thing I had ever seen. What is that over there? My father told me what it was. So I probably was in middle school at that point in time, and it just stuck in my head that, I wanted to see that place. I wanted to go to that place. When it came time to looking at colleges, my father's approach was probably not very typical of how people approach it, but he took a compass that we used in geometry, and he put the point on where we lived in Connecticut and drew a circle of 150 miles. And he was like, that's your option. Inside the circle is where you have to go. So that's where we looked. It extended all the way up to Boston. So, and down basically kind of towards Philadelphia. So I feel as though the kids these days start out from maybe a smarter position, being a lot more informed than we were in lots of different ways. So when I got accepted to Holy Cross, it wasn't my father's first choice for me to choose Holy Cross for a variety of reasons. Financial was one of them, but also, coming from his point of view, I think he was struggling with the practicality of going to a liberal arts school and what were you going to do and how were you going to get a job. And I know that that's probably questions some of the parents in this audience have. So hopefully through my story, I'll address some of that. So I started out at Holy Cross and I was an economics major. And I figured that was as close to meeting my father's expectations about doing something in business that I was going to get. Started out taking principles of, I guess it's microeconomics that you start with first semester. And, I thought I was a good student at the time. And then the first test came and I was quite surprised. My grade was not what I thought. And panic overstruck me because I thought, oh, here we go. This is going to elevate this continued conflict I have with my father about choosing this and what was I going to do. So I went to see my professor and he was really great, kind of told me where I missed the mark, how I was going to, set the ship straight here. And honestly, I mean, I don't really recall in high school ever really having to do that. So this was very much a learning experience for me at this point in time to have to raise my hand and knock on the door and ask for help. Second test came along. It was right after the Columbus Day break, and I spent the entire time. I actually grew up in Fairfield, Connecticut, in the Fairfield University Library for the 4-day weekend studying for this next economics test. So I was happy to report that when I came back, I think I got like most improved or something that he had said. So, kind of figured it out. But that sense of, I guess, real commitment on the part of the professors at Holy Cross is really something that struck me at the time. It was at least as involved as I think I could have ever imagined any of my high school teachers being, and in some ways surprising to me at that time that he would take so much care about what I was doing and trying to help me be successful there. In my sophomore year, I transferred into being an economics and accounting major, and I think there's not many students that choose that major or even able to do that at Holy Cross. So, but I think a lot of people think, oh, well, that's just that now you have your career path, so you're just done. You're just going to do that. But the interesting thing about it, and I want to point this out only because it's not that different from what the liberal arts majors go through. So as an economics and accounting major at Holy Cross, you take accounting and taxation, blah, 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 economics, and you take one class in auditing. But most of the accounting majors at Holy Cross, they end up going to work in public accounting, and you basically become an auditor. And you've taken all of these liberal arts classes and your accounting classes, but you're not an accountant, you're an auditor. So, there's this shift of, you go to work, and I mean, I will honestly say, and I know the students today have more resources to find this out, wasn't really exactly sure what I was going to do in that job. I just knew I had a job, which was good and very positive, but showing up at work the first day going, oh, what do I do here? So when I worked at Pricewaterhouse in Boston, and a lot of my colleagues, actually was somebody from my class at Holy Cross who started with me, but a lot of them came from schools where there were business programs, and it was pretty intimidating at first. They all seemed to know a lot more than I did, or at least that was my perception, even though we were all going to do the same job. And there was something about it that made me feel a little insecure in the beginning. But I think what I learned after doing that job for a couple of years is that it wasn't necessarily the technical proficiency that maybe they had above me at that point in time that ultimately makes you successful. It's more the other things that I learned at Holy Cross about communication and writing and problem solving. It's not when you are an auditor, it's not about math, and it's actually very rarely about math. It's much more about interpreting things and talking to your client and understanding their problems and helping, even though having an audit in and of itself, a financial statement audit, is a matter of compliance. You're doing it because you're a public company or because you have a loan to the bank and you have to do it. So it's not something that anyone at the company gets super excited about. Matter of fact, most of the time when they see you coming, they want to run the other way. But there's as you progress in that career, you're not really doing much with math. You are doing a lot of writing, and you're doing a lot of explaining, and you're interpreting why the company is taking this approach versus another approach, and helping them figure out, well, I don't want to have to do the accounting that way, because that kind of maybe doesn't put my company's financial statements in the best light. Help me figure out how we can either draft this contract or do something in a different way. So, you really start getting into more involvement with the client like that, probably around your third year. And that's when a lot of people decide they're out of there. They're going to go because they would rather stay comfortable in that place where technical skills are what they learned, and they don't know how to do some of these other things. And this is stereotypical, by the way. I'm not talking about everybody, but I feel like for me, coming from Holy Cross gave me a much broader perspective of some of these things. And it wasn't just about being technical, which, you can be technical. And I think that for a lot of kids starting out today, having some technical expertise, whether that be I know how to use certain Microsoft Office products, or I know how to use Excel, or I've dabbled a little bit in Salesforce, that's kind of enough to get you started somewhere. And then I think Holy Cross's business program does a really nice job of getting kids some of this entry-level tactical skills that they might need to kind of jump into that entry-level position. And also in today's day, there's so much they can do online. Not that we're in favor of online education, but for things like that, they can take Excel. There's lots of other places where they can get some, even a 3-week coding course or things like that to really kind of jump in. Because I think at the entry level, there is some amount of just kind of technical stuff that's good to have. But ultimately, I think what you learn at Holy Cross really helps to differentiate you from your peers and help you kind of take the next level and be more successful, and ultimately, working in business, maybe think about the strategic side of the business. Not everybody wants to do that, but I think that ultimately, to become kind of a C-suite kind of person, that is really what you need. So I think Holy Cross really prepares the students well for that. I know at some of the schools where there's business programs, you might have to take an entire semester of Microsoft Excel. And I say this to a lot of kids who I either counsel, some of my own children, their friends, other kids from Holy Cross who reach out to me, that all these things, they're just tools. They're pieces of software. You're a smart enough person that you're going to be able to figure it out. And again, these guys coming out of college today, they're so much more proficient than we ever were. I never even had a computer in college. I had a typewriter. And even when I started my first job, we didn't all have computers. We shared some. Our team used to have one between the 5 of us. And when you were the junior person, you never got to use it. But that technology curve just changed so quickly that by the time I was in my 5th year, we all had computers. As far as the community at Holy Cross, from the minute I stepped on that campus to even visit, I found it to be so welcoming. Everybody just smiled, and everybody, said hello. It felt like such a comfortable place for me. So I knew that aside from the academics, it was going to be a great place for me. While I was at Holy Cross, I was an RA when I was a junior, which I don't know if my son is on this call or not, but all of my children, they're always, Mom, you're an RA. It's like so embarrassing. Like, don't tell anyone you were ever an RA. And the reason I became an RA is because my RA as a freshman was phenomenal. We had a hallway of all freshman girls, and she just made everything about it so fun. And we really got to know each other, and she created such a great sense of community, and she organized events for us. And I wanted to be able to do that. And I think, again, that feeling of Holy Cross, regardless of what you were involved in, I think a lot of people become, club leaders or presidents or have leadership positions in whatever they're involved in because they want other people to have the experience that they had, which I think is really important to not just take, but give back. And I think a lot of the students at Holy Cross have that. Just, I don't know if it comes from being there or having that experience, but I think that's what makes the community so special there. So I was an RI for a year. I had a work study job when I was at Holy Cross, which is a big part of what I did. I don't know, I think I probably worked maybe just 2 hours a day in the sports information office, which was a really fun work study job. And I had my community of friends there, which was fun. There was pretty much somebody, I think probably from every class when I was there. And we used to have to work at the football games in the press box, which sounds really boring. So I never actually got to go to any football games because I was working in the press box. But we just had our own fun up there, and we worked at basketball games and anytime there was a sporting special event. So those are two probably things that were highlights of my community involvement at Holy Cross, which was very fun. I also met my husband when I was an RA, so that didn't hurt either. It's hard to say, exactly what was the best part, but I would say that those two experiences were really significant in my development at Holy Cross. So after graduation, I told you a little bit about my career path. I ended up working in public accounting for about 10 years. And then we had 3 kids in 2 years because my son is a sophomore, is a twin. So I had to take a break from everything. I thought I would take 6 months off, and I picked up my head 6 months later and was still like, I don't know how I can figure this out because I can't possibly pay anyone enough money to watch these 3 children because I can barely do it by myself. So after it was just about 2 years, I kind of got back into it. One of my former PwC colleagues, she was at a client of mine and she was going out on maternity leave. I happened to bump into her at the pediatrician's office, and she said she was going to be going out on leave because she was having another baby. So I emailed her that night and I said, maybe I can help when you're out. And she said, you read my mind. And then the panic came over me. And I remember going to bed that night and I said to Scott, I must have been out of my mind when I said that to her. Like, how am I ever going to do this? And he was like, you're just going to be fine. You're going to do it. So anyway, figured it out, which was, for anyone who's taken any time off from work, what that's like to kind of jump back in. It's like you're the whole world that you thought you knew, you just can't even remember if that's your life anymore. So in any event, it was probably one of the best decisions that I made. It enabled me to kind of go back into something that I was kind of familiar with because she had been a former client of mine. But interestingly enough, getting back to my story of I was an accounting major, but I was never an accountant. So now this is whatever it was 2002. So 12 years post-graduation, that was the first time I actually had a job as an accountant. So like in my major, if you will. So when I talk, a lot of times when I'm talking to students and meeting with them, and they'll say, I'm a history major, what am I going to be? And I'm like, you don't get a job in history, and you don't get a job in English. And like, I didn't even get a job in accounting. So it's not dissimilar to say, well, what are the skill sets that you have? What are the kind of core competencies, I guess, that you develop? And, I know anyone who's probably worked in various jobs knows when you get reviews, usually they're looking for core competencies. So when I talk to students, I'll always say, well, what did you do when you were involved in this organization? Okay, so you have organizational skills. Okay, did you work in a team? Great, your collaboration, right? Like these are the things that at the end of the day, I think are really, again, what can distinguish a liberal arts student from, somebody who maybe just has more of a technical background. So after, 12 or 13 years, I now was doing accounting for the first time ever, accounting entries, using a general ledger. These are things that very academic. We've talked about them in accounting class, but never ever sitting on that side of the desk to actually say, I'm not going to do this. So, that was like a whole nother transition. Of course, I had plenty of work experience at that point in time, so I understood the whys, but it is a little intimidating to all of a sudden realize that, you're going to be doing that when, you haven't actually been doing just that. Let's see, what can I say next? So after that, I did a lot of networking and really kept in touch with just people that I worked with and people from Holy Cross. And that was really helpful in my career, especially as I did consulting work where I was either an interim CFO or a part-time CFO for about 12 years. And I always kept in touch with people from Holy Cross to find out, did anyone need anybody, where was the next opportunity? So much so that in the 12 years that I was a consultant, there were times where I took new opportunities where I never even put a resume together because people were like, oh, yep, talk to this person, he or she needs somebody. And, it's very powerful and really helpful to have that group of people where you can reach out to. And, I ultimately, when I finally decided I was going to go back to work full time, I kind of sat up and I was like, geez, I actually haven't really looked for a job. I've never really interviewed for a job since I got that job out of college, because all of the other opportunities that I had really come from a much less formal process. So all of a sudden I was in this situation. I was like, wow, put the resume together. Do I talk to a recruiter? This is kind of strange because at this point in time, I guess I'm probably 40 years old. And I'm going, oh, well, maybe even more older than that. Like, this is just kind of funny. Last time I really did this, I was in my 20s. So again, at that point in time, I really reached out to my Holy Cross network. Anyone who worked in finance, anyone who worked in business. I had one classmate of mine who worked at a startup, and I met with him, and I always say to him, I go, whenever I'm feeling bad about myself, I'm just going to come see you, because we had lunch, and I was explaining to him, like, I got to make this shift, and I'm looking for a full-time job. Jackie, look at all these great things that you can do. You've done this, and you've done that, and you've done this. I'm like, wow, really? I have. I better start writing this down so that I can, kind of sell my own story here. It's kind of one of those things. Like, I knew everything that I had to do, and I knew the skill sets that I had, but really kind of cohesively putting that together to go to somebody and say, I can be valuable to your company. It was a little harder than I thought it was going to be honest. So it was really great to have this network of Holy Cross people that I could reach out to kind of get feedback about, what to do, how to position yourself, how to highlight the things that you've done and kind of what you can bring to the table. So I went back to work for a consulting firm for a couple of years. And again, the people that they hired were mostly very technical people. There wasn't actually a single Holy Cross alum working at this firm that I went to work for, which I found really surprising at first. I was like, wow, I'm in Boston. There should be Holy Cross people working here. Everybody was very technical. It was a lot of very technical accounting expertise was kind of what they were selling. So I came and I was like, oh, I'm not really sure that that's what I'm going to bring to the table here. And I kind of looked at their clients and their business and who they were serving. And I think I mentioned this earlier. When you're working at a company and you're the CEO or the CFO at a company and you have to have an audit, nobody's really excited about it. You have to do it because it's a matter of compliance, kind of like filing your tax returns. It costs money to do it, but no one is very excited to pay that kind of money because they have to do it. And so this firm, most of the time, their consultants were going out and helping people kind of get through that audit process or get through an initial public offering, stuff where you really need a lot of heavy duty technical expertise in a short period of time. So I said to them, listen, I had spent a lot of time working with private equity firms and in investment management, and in M&A, in the mergers and acquisitions sector as well. And I said, when companies get bought and sold, there's always a lot of things that have to happen. You have to integrate companies. You have to build new accounting systems, sometimes new reporting systems. You have to integrate them. You have to come up with kind of a new set of data points for the management team, for the CEO, for the CFO. So it might be like your daily revenues, or how many customers visit your website in the day. They call this a dashboard. So I said, I think people could get pretty excited about spending money on something like that versus, needing you guys to help out to get them through the audit, because this is stuff that's like really a value add for them. So when I came to their firm, I went to them with this proposition. I said, listen, I think you guys really need to be thinking about it kind of this way. So as a result of that, we kind of started a new, I don't want to say division, but anyway, new target audience for them, for clients, and going after this group of people. So again, I kind of felt like that was me being able to add some value there. I mean, I could have taken the path of least resistance and just said, okay, fine, I'll go back and I'll do this technical accounting stuff. But I felt like I had more to bring to the table with them. And again, I think it's because I had a broader experience for, being able to communicate, with their clients and with them, and kind of, selling the story because of my experiences at Holy Cross. And just, not being just very specifically trained in just doing accounting. So let's see, what did I do after that? So after that, then I actually took this job at America's Test Kitchen, which is kind of a funny situation, because after I was working at that consulting firm, I said, you know what, I think I can do this by myself. I think I'm going to go out and kind of start my own firm. And so I went back out to networking and meeting people. And one of the people that I was networking with was a former client of mine. And as I'm trying to explain to her how I'm going to start this consulting firm, and this is what it's going to be like, and this is what I'm going to do for people, she said, oh, I'm on the board of this company and they need a CFO. You should interview for the job. And I was like, what? That's not what I want to do right now. Not to mention, at the time, the company was geographically not in a place that was really going to be convenient for me. But I said, okay, no, you should really meet the CEO. And so when I went to work for this consulting firm, I was trying to make that jump to be a permanent CFO. And it was hard. My resume, even though I'd been interim CFO, part-time CFO, on paper, sending that around, as I said, that was my first time really looking for a job. It was the kind of thing where I was going to need to have to tell my story to people, because I wasn't an industry expert. I wasn't ever a full-time CFO of, a $100 million company, but I knew I could do it. But I had to really have an opportunity to get in front of somebody and tell them the story about why I could. So this friend of mine introduced me to the CEO of America's Test Kitchen. He was new at the time as well. And it was a really interesting conversation, because when I was looking at even job postings for CFOs, a lot of them would say things like, well, you need to know how to use the Great Plains General Ledger software. Or you need to know how to use the NetSuite General Ledger software. And I was like, I don't know. Maybe I've used it, maybe I haven't. I'm certainly not an expert in it. But I also didn't think that was going to be the value I was going to bring to the table. So when I first interviewed with my current boss, our CEO, I said, listen, I don't know what kind of general ledger you use. And I actually hope I never actually use it. I hope I'm never the one who's posting accounting entries, because I want to help you figure out strategically what you're going to do with the company. And, it just ended up like we clicked like that. He's like, this is exactly what I want. He's like, I want a business partner. I don't want somebody who just is, head in the numbers. I want someone who's going to interpret the numbers and help us make decisions about, where to take the business. So that's how I ended up in this job, which was pretty amazing. And again, I get, people will say to me all the time, you don't seem like you're an accountant. You don't seem like you work in finance. I said, well, I actually think that's a good thing, because, in my job and in my role, I have to talk to people, including the owners of our business, who they don't come from the same place I do from what I know about tax and accounting. So I can't sit down at the table and start talking about, you know, tax and accounting. I mean, they're just going to be like, tell me how this impacts me. Am I going to spend more money? Am I going to spend less money? And I think what has differentiated me in this role is, again, the fact that I didn't come from just pure educational background where I only learned about accounting or I only learned about tax or auditing. You know, I learned how to write, I learned how to communicate, I learned how to problem solve. It wasn't easy. I mean, those types of the classes, when I had to take the Englishes and the histories and music, I mean, those were my hardest classes, which is, you know, a lot of, you come from both sides of the fence. And the other people are like, oh, hated calculus. I loved calculus, you know. So I think Holy Cross really gives you that opportunity to step out of your comfort zone. You know, it's pretty well a requirement, but it really does, you know, help make you, I think, into what can be a more successful professional when that happens. All right, I think I went through my full agenda on that. Oh, I guess I didn't really talk a little bit about how it has impacted my personal life or parenting, maybe specifically. So my husband is also a Holy Cross grad, so which is nice because we come from, we have both had a great experience. We come from the kind of the same, I don't know, we just, how do I describe this? I guess we have a lot of similarities about how we think about Holy Cross, how we think about giving back, and both of us, even in our careers, are taken very seriously. If somebody from Holy Cross reaches out to us, we feel like it's important that we reach back out, if it's a student or a colleague or someone else from a networking perspective. So when we were raising our kids, you know, similarly, we felt like we should help out in the community. You know, I taught CCD for many years. We both coached sports for a couple of years. My husband would volunteer for some boards in town. And when our kids were young, if either one of us were going out to a meeting at night, one night one of them said, "Dad, are you getting paid to do this?" And he said, "No." "Well, why are you going then?" And well, because this is what we do. This is how we were raised. We're giving back. We're doing this. And you know, I think that really is something that was very just kind of ingrained in us at Holy Cross. You know, we really feel that connection back to the school and to the community and giving back and helping others. And, you know, hopefully we've got that point across to our children. I think we've beaten them up enough about it. But, you know, Holy Cross is really, really a significant part of our lives. Again, we met there. Our kids probably heard more about Holy Cross when they were young, so much so that when our kids started to play lacrosse, they used to call it Holy Cross because we talked about Holy Cross so much that they thought Holy Cross and lacrosse were actually the same thing. You know, it just, like I said, I feel like the network at Holy Cross has been really good to me. I don't even feel like it's a quid pro quo. Like if someone does something for me, I have to do something for them. I just feel like I want to. And Scott and I have talked about this on numerous occasions and talked about it with specifically even a few weeks ago with a friend who went to an Ivy League school, and he was almost like laughing out loud when he said, "You guys actually feel that like you would rather hire somebody from Holy Cross than another school?" "Yeah, I do. I feel like that." Like we, you know, he's like, it blew him away. And his wife went to Notre Dame, and he's like, "You're like her." He's pointing to his wife. "You're like her. You want to connect with these people." And I really think that's something that really differentiates, you know, the sense of community at Holy Cross. I'm constantly being made fun of by my family because whenever we drive anywhere, if we pass a car, there's a Holy Cross sticker on, I'll say, "Oh, wait, slow down. Maybe we'll know who it is." And they're like, "You don't know who it is." But you never know. I might know who it is. Or if somebody has a shirt on or a hat or something, I always want to go over and say hi, because every experience I've had doing it has always been very pleasant. I've never gone up to somebody and I don't know, them giving me the cold shoulder or not been really, really welcoming. Either it's their son, it's their grandson, it's their nephew. always super happy to share the story, which is really nice because it makes you feel like you're part of this extended family. And it's just been a great experience for both of us, I think, personally and professionally. So that's my Holy Cross story. And I went on way longer than I thought. So now I know there's a bunch of questions for me that maybe I've touched on anyway, but.
Sure. Thanks, Jackie, so much for sharing that. I think that because I'm also married to an alum, we always call it that we bleed purple.
Yes.
We're going to jump right into questions. And
Sure.
The first question that I have for you is, how has having family attend Holy Cross affected your experience?
So I was the first person from my family to attend Holy Cross. I had a nephew who graduated in 15, and I have another nephew, his younger brother, who's a senior. And then, we have 3 kids, 1 son went. Again, Colleen, like you, having both gone to Holy Cross, it's the one college experience that we both had, and we both had a great experience. So in some ways, it's really hard when we started this college process with our kids to, every time I stepped on another campus, I was just comparing it to Holy Cross. This isn't as good as Holy Cross. It is better than Holy Cross. It's like the only frame of reference, which in some ways I felt bad for. Most kids have at least one parent went here and there, and they maybe they can be more objective. But I'm not going to lie, we're very happy that one of ours ended up at Holy Cross. I think all of our kids could have done well at Holy Cross, but they have to want to go. And we never forced it upon them. I mean, they did spend time there as kids. We definitely took them up. My husband played lacrosse. We would go to 1 or 2 lacrosse games a year. We would go to some football games. It was definitely talked about, but we did feel pretty happy when one of ours was going to choose it. It gives us a nice connection back, another reason to come. My father-in-law also went to Holy Cross, so I think if somebody didn't go, he was going to be really upset. So we got the last one, but he did. He took it down to the wire for us. It was really, really nice till the last day of making his decision. But anyway, he's very happy as well.
Jackie, I have another question for you. You touched on the first part of this, I think, through your remarks. How has Holy Cross helped shape your life? And here's kind of a part that I don't think you were able to address as much, is how do you see it shaping the life of your son, who's at the college?
Yeah, so, like I said, Holy Cross is a big part of our life, personally and professionally. And, so far, I would say, despite the pandemic, he seems to be having a good experience. He's taking advantage of a lot of things at Holy Cross that we're really thrilled with. He was doing, before the pandemic, he was going into Worcester and volunteering. He joined the consulting club. He's taking a variety of classes. He's taking dance class right now to fill his art requirement. I think that I see it working out really well for him. And I can see that he is going to have this network that we have. I know he still thinks it's a little bit corny that I'm, always talking to people who have Holy Cross hats on, but he'll get there. I know he will. I don't know. I think we're really happy that he's there. I think that as best I can tell, he's going to come out of Holy Cross feeling as good about Holy Cross as we did, and I'm hoping that he uses what he learned there and gives back to the community and to the school, and feels the way we do about his kind of fellow alumni. And as much as I hope that they can help him when he's first starting out, I feel pretty confident that he's going to feel that commitment, to be giving back as well.
Okay, I'll continue with some of the questions that we had received before the event started tonight. So you touched on a lot of about your career and the different places it took you. But do you have something in your career that you're most proud of?
Yeah, I touched on this a little bit. I think being able to be offered this position to be the CFO at America's Test Kitchen is probably my biggest accomplishment. Um, I every year I always volunteer to talk to Holy Cross students looking for jobs and would have them job shadow either at Christmas or um, over the summer. And when I had to make this transition to get this CFO role, I feel like, wow, all right, you need to step it up now. You need to actually start, practicing what you preach. All these things you tell these kids, use your skill sets, tell your story. I was like, game on, like you keep telling people this, like you've got to go and do it. And it was intimidating at first. And anytime you start a new job, it takes a while to ramp up. But one of the things that made me feel really good about it, and I hadn't really thought about it because I've always been a female working in finance, so it never seemed that unusual to me. But when I started at ATK, it skews heavily female, probably like 65%, and very young, by the way. So I had several of the younger women work there come into my office and sit down and say, I just want to tell you how cool I think it is that we have a female CFO. And I was like, wow, I didn't really, it just made me feel good that I was being a role model for them to look up to, for somebody to say, wow, you did this, you can do it. And I always encourage them, I'm like, if you want to learn more about the company or if you have a question about, how things are working, come in, we'll chat about it for 15 minutes. I'll explain to you why this is important from a business side, because, we have a whole creative side of the business, and a lot of those people don't kind of connect the creative side to the business side. And I said, anytime you want to talk about it, I'll let you know how this whole circle works. So, but I think that's definitely been the highlight of my career, and kind of a culmination of a lot of different things.
There we go. Sorry about that. So Jackie, this is kind of an interesting question. What advice do you have for current college students or recent grads about careers in business and job and internship searches? And, how specific should those searches be? Casting a wider net or kind of looking at with a finer point in mind?
Yeah. I think thankfully the students these days have access to a lot of information, and this idea of networking because of the internet and LinkedIn and email is pretty easy for them. It's not comfortable for them. I mean, again, our daughter is graduating from Boston College this year, and for years I was saying, you need to go on LinkedIn, you need to find the BC grads, you need to send them an email. And I swear, it was like I was speaking another language. Then one day she came home and said she was doing it. I said, oh, that's good. She goes, oh yeah, my roommate Katie told me to do it. I said, I've been telling you to do this for months. But they know how to use social media. They know how to send messages to people through Facebook, etc. It's like, it's so much easier for them to learn about things, and it's really great. I mean, I'm sure anyone out there who's even remotely close to my age can understand when you're graduating from college. What do people do? What do you want to do? I don't even know what people do. I don't even know what that job means. I want to work in finance. I mean, when kids say that to me, I said, okay, well, what type of finance? Like, do you want to be a stockbroker? Do you want to be a wealth manager? Do you want to work in banking? There's so many different things that you can do. So I think that just learning about different jobs, different opportunities, different industries. I don't even know that anyone talked about that word, different industries when I was graduating from college. There's so much for them to learn. And again, I feel like the network at Holy Cross, they make it really easy. I would say, at least 7 times out of 10, somebody's going to respond to their message. And just get on a call. Tell me about your job. I don't know if I want this job. What is it like? What is it like at entry level? What are the entry level opportunities in banking? You don't just go work at a bank. Well, I mean, you're going to be a teller. You're going to work on the credit side. You're going to work on the business side. Where are you going to work? So it's really, I think, great for them to just, connect with as many people as they can and find out what people do. Not everyone has parents who, work in business, right? So, or whatever career for that matter. So, what do they want to be a doctor? Well, they should find out, well, what is it like to study to be a doctor and then be a doctor? So I think it's great for them to, use career services and use LinkedIn. I know that I think the college uses Handshake or some other program platform to connect alumni. As far as looking for jobs, and again, I've been doing a lot of this as a parent as well. I think it's kind of like if you're looking at a college, a lot of the kids that are coming out with liberal arts degrees are like, I don't know, what am I going to do? I want to work in business. Well, there's all sorts of things that you can do, but if you want to target, sometimes the world is just too vast, right? And so even when you're looking at colleges, all these colleges all over the country, with some people I know had sons or daughters who said, well, I know I want to study engineering. Well, great. Now you've taken the funnel down to here. Now I can only look at engineering schools. Or I'm going to start my search. I only want to go to school in California or down south or something like that. So I think sometimes if they can start with something, a little structure. I want to work in Boston. I want to work in New York. Or maybe I target those two cities. I want to work at a startup, or I like a big company. I only want to work in pharmaceuticals. Just having a little bit of structure will allow them, I think, to go a little bit deeper into their networking and might help them. I mean, listen, they might go into it and then say, well, I definitely really don't want to do this. But I think it's just kind of like, turning over rocks. Sometimes when I meet with kids, I said, it's kind of like kissing a bunch of frogs. But they don't really always understand what I'm saying. But you guys know what I'm saying. You just got to go out there. It's not always going to work out. But even any entry level job, you're going to learn so much. You're going to be in the room and you're going to be listening to conversations about stuff you don't know anything about. So I was recently telling my daughter this. Is that the first 3 years you're working, it's almost like you're back in school. You're learning so much. Somewhere around the third year, you're going to pick your head up and you'll be like, oh, I actually know some stuff. I can actually talk to people about what's happening at this company because I know it. Not that long ago, maybe two weeks ago or so, I was on a Holy Cross networking call for media and communications careers. And it was really impressive. I have to say, I'd never participated in it before, but we have some really impressive alumni, TV show writers, working on the West Coast, authors, people working in sales. And one of the women on the call, she happens to be the daughter of one of my classmates. And I remember when she was looking for a job, and she said something to me, which I think is actually pretty helpful, that she found it most helpful to talk to recent grads about how they got their job versus she's like, listen, you're great and I'm gonna learn a lot from you, but like you're however many years away from looking for that entry level job. So she actually, I think, got her job. I think she told me through a woman, I forget, she worked for one of the magazine companies, but a woman who was, 3 or 4 years out, who she had kind of connected with, she was talking about jobs at that company, and then a job popped up and she took it. And already in 2 years, she's, and of course, because of the pandemic, her job shifted. Like, it was almost kind of funny hearing her tell the story, 2 years into this, because it's just evolved. And I think part of it is they have to understand they can't control all of it, and nor should they. Like I say to the students I speak to and my own kids, like, I never thought when I was 22 that at 52, this is what I was going to be doing. I mean, maybe I should have been thinking about it, but I didn't think about it. And honestly, some of the things that I ended up doing, if I had it all planned out, I never would have done. Like I was telling the story about taking this job as CFO. If I really had said, well, no, I had this plan, I was going to start my own consulting firm, I would have said no. And I think, you have to kind of keep an open mind and take the opportunities when they come.
Okay, I think that I've got the last question as we're looking at the clock. So Jackie, I have one more question for you.
Okay.
In talking with your son, who is a sophomore, in what ways has Holy Cross changed, and in what ways has it remained the same?
That's hard since he had one semester pre-pandemic.
And I will also add that, maybe part of this could be, if you, depending upon timing, do you have a favorite memory of Holy Cross, which may relate to a little bit about how things have changed and what, what's happened.
Yeah. It's so hard. I just really enjoyed my all 4 years at Holy Cross. I never considered going abroad. I thought, why would you want to go abroad and miss all this fun? Like, everything about it was fun. I think I touched on this a little bit. I think some of the experience I had being an RA and the job I had at Sports Information were really, highlights overall. It's really hard to pick one single memory and say, this was the day. But I think, it's a little bit different. The difference is, I would say, when Scott and I started at Holy Cross, the football team was really a football team. I think our freshman year, they were undefeated. Like, people wanted to go see them. I think that has changed for sure. I'm not necessarily sure that's for the worst, but it's still fun to go to the games. But I'm not sure the team that was playing was really good. I think our freshman year, I think Gordy Lockbaum, he was still on the team as a senior, so that was pretty exciting. So that's a little bit different. I think, what I think is the most important things about Holy Cross, I think, are still very much part of Holy Cross. One of my classmates had been very, and I think, Colleen, you would probably remember this. I think she and some other classmates started that SPUD program. And I was amazed. I thought to myself, gosh, I am such a slacker. This friend of mine lives on my hall. I'm worried about playing intramural basketball, and she's, starting this program in Worcester to help kids. And that's still around today, which is really amazing. And again, that's how Carter got involved, volunteering downtown, which I thought was pretty cool. He's going to play some club lacrosse, which, I think is fun. I think there's still some intramurals when we get past this COVID thing. I think he'll do that. I think he's really enjoying his classes. The size of the classes and getting to know his professors, and it's hard right now with classes being virtual. I'll ask him sometimes, did you talk to your professor? Yeah, I went to office hours. I think to myself, it's so funny. Like, what are office hours like on Zoom? You knock on the door. I'm zooming in with you right now. I'm coming in or making an appointment. But he seems to be rolling with it, and I think that there are a lot. I think the stuff that he's finding that is the same is kind of the commitment of the professors, the quality of the education. Those things are absolutely the same. Campus looks different. A lot more buildings on campus than when we were there. Some of them are the same, maybe not for the better. Some of those hill dorms have not changed at all, as anyone who's an alum might know if they went for a reunion and stayed there. But overall, I think the core of the school and the mission really is the same. And the change that's happening is good. We need change, we need progress, and we need to be current. So I think it's going to be a good experience for him.
All right. Well, I believe that's all the questions that we have for this evening. And Jackie, I just want to thank you so much for your time and being able to share your insights and stories with us and sharing your journey with us. And for everyone out there in the audience, thank you to everyone out there for joining us this evening as well. I'll also be remiss if I didn't quickly mention my daughter Sarah is a sophomore and my son Adam is a first year. Don't want to get in trouble with the family here, but I do mention that they're out there as well. So I'm glad that they could plug in. And so for everyone out there, there's still plenty of Family Week events to participate in. So please check that out and register through the schedule on the Family Week website. And with that, we'll close, and we wish everyone a good night.